Hey guys, my name is Jean and I'm so excited to be talking to you this week for our series, Relationship Goals. Today I want to start talking about how relationships are changing in middle school. I mean, think about it. When you were in elementary school, it wasn't a big deal to play with boys and girls on the playground. When I was in kindergarten, I remember playing on the swings with boys and girls. I'm sure when you were in elementary school, like in kindergarten, no one made a big deal about who you sat next to in class. Life was just so much easier back then. But then, as you got older, people started to notice when a boy would make his way over to the girls' group or when a girl would play basketball with the boys, and all of a sudden, it's weird. And there's always that one person who says something like, "Oh, is he your friend or is she your friend? They are? Then they must be your boyfriend or they must be your girlfriend." How silly is that? Everyone played together in pre-K and in kindergarten. No big deal. So what's the difference now? So what if you go and talk to that girl or go sit next to that boy? Why should that be so weird? But the damage was done. Whoever was the first to say those comments, and I don't know who it was, ruined it for the rest of us. And ever since then, it's been awkward between guys and girls at school. Now everyone notices when a guy sits at the girls' lunch table. But if something like that had happened 3 or 5 years ago, no one would have even noticed. So what happened? What changed? Why does all of this have to be so weird in middle school? Well, if you've ever thought about that or any questions like that, you've picked the right day to be in transit. The reality is that things are changing in your life. You're moving towards adulthood, and that has a lot of implications. You're getting taller, and you're beginning to look like an adult. And for the first time, you're having to figure out how to treat someone you like. And I get it. This is where it really gets awkward. But we need to get to the bottom of this. And seriously, what do you do when you like someone? A lot of the time, people just want to jump right into dating or even marriage. But that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is what we do when we start having feelings for someone, or what we do when we think we might or will have feelings for someone. How do you treat them, and what do we do about it in middle school? It almost seems easier to talk about this whole idea of dating when we're older. You know, like when you can drive and go on dates and have more freedom. But what do you do now? Should you be liking someone? Is there something wrong if you don't have feelings for anyone yet? Well, believe it or not, we actually get some great advice in a letter written a long time ago by a guy named Paul. He was writing a letter to his friend Timothy, who was in a similar situation. Timothy was single, but it wasn't appropriate to date in that culture. So he was in this really awkward stage of, what do I do when I like someone? He couldn't date in the way that we think of dating, so what should he do? So this is what Paul says. Treat younger men as brothers, older women as mothers, and younger women as sisters with absolute purity. Right away, you're probably already thinking, oh, gross. I don't want a guy to treat me like a sister, or even worse, his mom. Paul, that's terrible advice. But wait, let's look at it again. You see, Paul wasn't saying to think of others like actual family, but instead to value everyone as you would value your family. To value something is to consider something to be really important, that something has a lot of worth. We all like the idea of someone being interested in us, someone that values you enough to know how important you are, a guy or girl that values you the same way they value their sister or their mom. I know there are times your brother might get on your nerves or your sister just drives you crazy, but think about that day when they're finally nice to you. That day you'll be thankful for them because you'll actually see how much they love you. That's the type of value we should be looking for and the type of people we should be when it comes to the people we like. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. The next few years of dating and crushes and school dances can be weird and awkward for all of us. The good news is that you have each other. You have your small group to talk to about this kind of stuff. We truly believe that your transit small group is the safest place for you to talk about anything. So we hope you feel comfortable opening up and telling them about what's going on in every part of your life, including all of this stuff with dating and crushes and having an interest in other people. The truth is, there are tons of people who make it through middle school and they really enjoy it. When I reflect on my own middle school experience, there were some good relationships and some not so good ones. I think what I learned and what Paul points out in his letter to Timothy is that we shouldn't rush to make any relationship romantic before we need to. There are always consequences when we sexualize or romanticize a relationship. It alters it, it changes when we introduce attraction to the current friendships we have. For now, the best advice I can give you for how to thrive in the next year of school when it comes to this whole subject is don't sexualize any relationship. We all love to go for the next thing, to get to that next level. We do it with grades and sports and on video games, but that mentality can be really dangerous when it comes to our romantic relationships. Pushing to take a relationship to the next level can lead to heartache. I think Paul's advice to Timothy is perfect for these middle school years. Treat one another like brothers and sisters. Protect and fight for each other like brothers and sisters. If the person you like doesn't treat your friends well, they aren't going to treat you well either. If the person you like doesn't do the friendship level well, what makes you think they're going to do the dating level well? And if we're being honest, we haven't always gotten this right either. Maybe you haven't treated other people with this value that Paul talks about to Timothy, but it's never too late to start. So the challenge for us today is not to make goals for the next 10 years of your life. Like, don't get too off track thinking about what your future spouse is going to be like. That may not be in God's plan for you right now. The thing to do today is focus on the next year. From now until this time next year, what do you want your relationships to be like in the romantic dating sphere of life? How do you want to be treated by others, and how can you treat them well? So, as you go to group, be thinking about this question because it's how we're going to start today's conversation. What does it mean to date at your school?